Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year. No distractions. Just me doing big picture, blue sky thinking.
That's why we have goals. No one has ever made a goal to be stagnant. Do what makes you happy and what makes you fulfilled. Go in that direction. It's December 31st. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year.
It's gonna be a great year. But I thought we could do a final pod of the year and really go over life lessons we learned in 2023. And it seems like every year, I don't know about you, but I feel like I regress and then I progress and take 5 steps back. And I relearn the same lessons I've been trying to teach myself for the last 20 years. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, man. I feel like yes and no. Like in a macro scale, I feel like I'm getting better. Sometimes like my day-to-day habits, I'm like, I was trying to not, eat a shit ton of sugar like 5 years ago, and still it's like, oh no, again, back in the New Year's resolutions.
Oh,
So
do
do
you
you do
make
New Year's resolutions?
I was just going to ask you that. I used to, and then I realized how full of shit they all are and
Yeah.
decided it's a waste of my time because they're the same everywhere. Every year I'm going to, I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to run every day. And then, life happens and it's January 17th and you've already regressed to your old ways, right?
100%. It's like stats that are like by January 31st, like 80% of, like, don't quote me on the stat, but it's like 80% of New Year's resolutions go in the garbage. But I do like the fact that motivation is fleeting, right?
Mm.
But if you set up systems in your motivated period so that when you're no longer motivated, those systems are still in place. So, for example, yeah, say you're going to work out every day. I think it's reasonable to work out every day. That's fine. It's nothing inherently wrong about having that goal. But January 31st, you shouldn't just work out every day, first week of January, second week. You should probably spend the first week of January and the first of the year actually figuring out how to set up systems. So, like,
That's good.
put it
Good
in your
point.
calendar every single day for the whole year. Or, like, for me, I like doing workout classes. So, book like 3 weeks out of workout classes on the day. And then I'm stuck because then they charge you a cancellation fee if you don't show.
Ah, it's not a
So,
bad
set up
idea.
systems.
Set up the
Set up systems.
systems. That's the secret to it all. Hey.
Yeah. Or, like, if you don't want to eat poorly on the first, don't just like leave your house full of like chips and pop and ice cream sandwiches. Like, throw that shit out, and then at least that gives you like somewhat of a system to stick to. That's atomic habits, I think.
Mm. Yeah, no, I'm not that prepared to go that far yet. I'm still addicted to all that stuff. I'll just run more. But man, that's one of my lessons here. But let's dive into it. We're gonna do 5 lessons each. The 5 most important lessons we both learned in 2023. We'll go one at a time. Akhil, you go first. Mine aren't very
Oh.
profound, so don't show me up here. We haven't shared with each other yet, so it'll be a surprise for both of us here.
Okay, so it's funny you say that. I was having dinner with some of my girlfriend's friends last night. It was 4 girls and me, right? And she had them over to the condo, and she's talking about her, not my girlfriend's talking about her dating history. Her friend's talking about her dating history. And she goes, there's some guys that are like, they say something and or you say something and they make it sound like nothing you say is important. But then there's other guys that you say something and they're like, it's like the weather's nice outside. And the guy goes, oh my God, that's so profound. Right? So it's like, I feel like I'm that second version of that, like that second guy where I'm like, oh my God, that's so deep. But anyways, um, first, sorry, I just had to add that little anecdote.
No.
The first lesson for 2023, for me was focus. Um,
Mm.
I think focus is the single most important asset we have. And I mean that truly. I read this book called The One Thing by Gary Keller. Have you read it?
No.
So basically it talks about how poor we are at multitasking
Yep.
and how, I mean, both of us have so many things going on, right? Like, it's so easy to bounce your time between things, even within one particular thing like dentistry. It's so easy to bounce your time between admin, HR, clinical dentistry, continuing education. And the point of the book is you can do a lot. That's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. Actually, it's encouraged to do a lot. Like a lot of the greats, Einstein, Newton, they were all cross-disciplinary people. they all did multiple things. But like a juggler, if you've ever seen a juggler, like juggle 5 balls, right?
Yeah.
It looks like they're, juggling them all at the same time, but in reality, in any given moment, they only have two in their hands, right? It's not like
Ooh,
if they're
yeah, yeah.
juggling 5 balls, so you could do that, but you need to make sure. So when the juggler's, throwing up the three, he has two in his hands and he's basically just holding onto those. He's focusing on those. And the ones that are already in the air, he doesn't pay attention to because he can't control those. So that's my number one lesson in 2023 is whether it's between, you know, balancing clinical dentistry with my business, balancing the business with the podcast, my personal life. You could do it all, but, and someone once told me this, that you could do it all, but not at the same time. And I was like, that's a lie. I could do it all at the same time. And I took it in a way of, you can't do all the things you want to do. But I think what that person was actually telling me was you physically cannot do it at the same time. Your brain can only compute one thing at a time. And if you do everything, you end up really doing nothing. And you end up just spinning or half-assing the things that, you think you're doing really well. So, I mean, the way I've sort of overcome that is I think one, when I'm doing something, nothing distracts me. I put it in my calendar and it's not, I don't have my phone there. I don't have my computer, readily available. If I'm doing something, I try to make it as isolating as possible. Like I'll even pee before I have to like sit down and do like, long break because that's distracting,
I find that the
right?
most difficult part about this whole thing is this freaking device we all have in front of us. And I find this is the biggest time suck and the biggest distractor. And I want to throw it through a window, but I'm so attached to it. I don't know how to live my life without it. But that is my biggest focus distractor out of it all. How do you manage that?
Can I tell you a hack for my phone?
Please.
So you can hit, you obviously know do not disturb on your phone, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So with Do Not Disturb, there's like an extra feature where you can turn on so that even on your home screen, you know how like if you have like 15 unread messages, it shows
Yeah.
a bubble 15.
Right.
Or like you have like 100 unread emails, it shows 100. You can turn off having those little badges on apps. So for example, when I turn on my phone, nothing is on the home screen and nothing is showing on those apps. So if I'm going in to do something, I want to go do email. I'm not seeing, oh, like I have 15 unread messages. Oh my God, like someone DM'd me. Holy shit. Like, Amazon's now having a sale.
Yeah.
It's like these things just suck your time and attention. And if you're going in for a task, now I can literally just focus on a task and I carve out time to quite literally, I have email time. I have time to respond to friends. I have time to, do these various tasks that you need to do, but I'm not just doing them while I'm doing other stuff because that's not
Mhm.
fair to anyone, right? Like if you think
Yeah.
of it, your friends deserve your time, right? They deserve your attention. You shouldn't just be like texting only when you're on the toilet. And then at the same time, your work deserves attention. So you can't
Right.
really be doing
So you have
both.
to be intentional on who's getting your attention and
Yeah,
when
I
you're
think
giving
so.
that attention. I like that, man. Focus.
That was number one.
Dude,
Focus.
I kind of can I have that one, man? That was very profound. You really you hit it out of the park there, man. I like that one. That was really good.
Thanks,
My
buddy.
number one is, and I stole this. I stole this from something I read or something I saw somewhere. I don't remember, but I read it or heard it a long time ago. Life is like a gym. You look to the person to the right of you, and they're just freaking huge, and you're just in awe of everything they've been able to do. And you look to the person to the left of you, and they're staring right back at you, and you're the person that they want to be, and they would kill to be where you are right now. And it just took me
Oh,
aback, and it was like, shit, I'm always looking to the right, and I'm always looking at someone that's done so much more than me, and really devaluing everything that I've done to get where I am today, and all my accomplishments and everything. And I'm always looking to the right when there's, maybe a previous version of me or someone else that would just die to be where I am right now. And it's funny how we're always looking for something, that we're always looking for the greener grass, right? And we forget where we came from.
dude, I love that.
Yeah, that was that it still gives me chills because I'm that guy. I'm always like, man, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I be as big as this guy? Obviously not physically. I don't work out a ton. I run, but like I'm always looking at like people like other dentists or other business people or people who have done really well either through skill or through luck. And I'm like, fuck man, like what am I doing wrong? And really I'm just not giving myself the or allowing myself to be like, man, look how far I've come. Like, man, I there was a period in my life I was freaking homeless with my dad. Like, and look where I am today. Like, this is amazing. And yet I never allow myself to enjoy that. So or lesson I've learned this year is take a step back and remember the journey to where you got to today.
Why do you think that is, man? Like, why do you think you can't just like sink into the appreciation side?
Because and I know exactly because I've thought about this so much. It's listening to people like Gary Vee or listening to the hustle culture that is embedded in every social media I I indulge in. You know what I mean? It's like you're never good enough sitting where you are. It's like you have to work another hour a day, or you can't take time off yet because like you haven't accomplished this. Um, you know, I'm working while you're sleeping. That type of mentality, that type of hustle culture is ingrained in me, and it's in all the media I consume, and it's become a part of my head to always look forward thinking I'm not good enough right where I am right now.
And that's, I think most people that are ambitious suffer from that too.
Yeah. Do you
I
understand
definitely
what I'm
suffer
saying?
from that. Oh, 100%, man. It's like y- you can't, it's hard to be content and be successful. I think
Yeah.
like every successful person or anyone that's done really anything out of the norm has usually done it out of like insecurity or out of um some pathological, because why, you don't need to hustle that hard, man. Like we live in Canada, we live in like one of the best countries in the world. We're gonna get fed. We're, if you're a dentist, you're gonna have food on your table. You're going to have, a reasonably good life. But
You're always going to look at the person to the right of you, though.
yeah, but then there's some people that don't,
I
which is the
know, and
craziest
I'm
part.
jealous of that too, right? And I'm like, how do you not well, you don't want to work 4 days a week, you don't want to work 5 days a week, you don't want to like open another clinic. Like that's what when I was a younger dentist and I'd see these dentists, like one of the people I really look up to in life, Hisham Shergan. I still to this day I'm like, dude, you're my mentor because he's younger than me, and I call him my mentor. And I'm like, dude, you've created so much in business, and I feel so inferior when talking to you. And I just like I glean onto every word that you're telling me because I'm like, man, there's so much, like this guy's so wise. He knows exactly where to go. And then I feel like a small peanut compared to him. You know what I mean? When really it's like, no, man, I've created some shit too. And I've had a lot of fun along the way, and I do well for myself. And I guess what I value and what I'm measuring is really on a different level of what, maybe someone else measures. Right. And so I don't know. I guess I've been tackling that one in my head for a couple of years, but I feel like this year I've given myself a little bit more, I've been able to relax that thought and really take value for where I have been and where I am.
And both can be true, right? Like we know Hisham and he's an incredible dude. Like he's like a maverick in our industry, but
Totally.
there's also the reality that you still have done wicked shit. Like there's so many people that look up to you. And that's the issue too. It doesn't really get back to you. Praise is very um it's really tough to come by because it takes a lot of confidence to look at someone in the eyes and say, "Hey, you're doing really great things."
Yeah.
Because it inherently, because other people are just like ourselves, right? Because when you say that to someone, it makes you feel a little bit less, right? Or it
Mm,
can make you feel a little bit less if you haven't developed that confidence yet in what you're doing. And it's a lonely, like you always say this, dentistry, we're on our own little islands.
yeah.
And it's rare that someone's going to come up to you and be like, "Hey, and it happens, but it's like, hey, you're doing incredible, incredible things. And, I just admire the hell out of you and want nothing in return." Right.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, that's I put that life lesson as number one because I have been dealing with it for a couple of years, and I have wanted to, shed that off me and just be like proud to where I am. But I still feel it's important. Like, if you want to go somewhere, you have to know where the goal is, right? And everyone's goal is going to be different. And so it's important to have those people in your life that you look up to, that you can look to the right to, and kind of give you a roadmap of where you want to go. But don't forget about the homie on the left. That is you 10 years ago, right?
I'm your homie on the left. Just look
I
at me and
love
you'll make yourself feel better.
it. No, no,
That's my
no. It's
role.
all,
That's why I
yeah.
take all these standardized tests. I just push up the average and make people look better.
What's
That's
your number
motivation.
two, man? What's your number two?
Number two for 2023. Never diminish or never neglect your big picture thinking. So it's so easy in dentistry and in life, really. It's not just unique to dentistry to get caught in the minutia, to get caught in bond strengths, to get caught in the very minute details of our craft. And that is super important. Like you need to have that, but you also need to carve out time, and I need to carve out time where nobody can, interfere with what I'm doing. No distractions, just me doing big picture, blue sky thinking.
Mm.
And I read actually two books, and both by Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan's an entrepreneur. Have you heard of Dan Sullivan?
Yep.
Yeah, so like my co-founder Mike, he got me onto Dan, and Dan was his, entrepreneurial coach, and now he's like his business I think is like $100 million. It's a massive,
Yeah.
massive business. And two books, 10x is easier than 2x, and Who Not How. And those two books just rocked my thinking. I would say if I were to recommend two books to any entrepreneur, it is those. They're not really kind of like these like personal habit sort of books. They're more for like business building. But the whole premise about 10x is easier than 2x is if you if you want to increase your production by 2x, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be 2x more productive, like let's just talk in the dental realm, that's possible. You just work harder.
Yeah.
You work twice as long. You work, you know, 4 3-hour days. You just make those 4 6-hour days.
Yeah.
You can double production. That's not out of the realm of reality. And, you might not get there quick. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's very doable just by grit and hard work. But do you want to be working double as hard? Do you want to be working twice as much for even if it means twice the reward?
No,
And
there's a limit to it too, right?
you don't want to. So then his whole premise is okay, think 10x. Because when you think 10x, you have to change the whole philosophy of how you perceive work. And that's where it kind of goes into the Who Not How book. And I read those in that order actually. And if you read Who Not How, it's about not what you know, but who you can do or who you can find to do the tasks you want done. So it's sort of like removing yourself from that operator doer, role and start finding the right people to do it because you're never going to be good at everything, right?
Yeah.
You have your key strengths. Maybe that's where it starts with finding out what your true undeniable strengths are in this world. And if you have those, everything else, like you're not doing it 100%. So find the right people to do that 100% and have them do it for you.
That's very similar to that E-Myth Revisited book where entrepreneurs work on their business while I keep on forgetting the other type of person, myself, work within the business.
Yeah,
And you can only create so much by working in the business, whereas entrepreneurs they shouldn't be working in the business. They should be working on the business. And that's similar to that 10x, 2x scenario right there, right? Very, very similar concepts.
that's
Um,
exactly it.
I like that.
Is E-Myth Revisited? Is that the book where I haven't read it, but I've heard of it? It's like you either create a business or you create a job for yourself.
That's right.
Is that
That's actually
that's
right.
the that's a book? Okay.
Yeah, and technicians work in the business,
Yeah,
entrepreneurs work on the business, and where a lot of small businesses fail is um, the people that are working in the business are trying to work on the business, and it never works, right? And so, yeah, you have to either work in or work out. And it's I 100% hear that 10x 2x rule. I should read that book. That's a good
Yeah, I'll
one.
send it to you.
Yeah,
10x
that's
versus 2x and who not how.
who knows how. I
And
like
it's
that.
funny because you think if you're writing your own book, you would write it. He lives his mentality. He lives that what he preaches so much. He found a professional writer to write the book and to narrate it. And you know what's crazy? These books have done so well that that writer that he found as like a PhD student, not Dan Sullivan, Ben Hardy, has now gone on to have a huge career in writing. So he
Really?
even said it's like at the beginning of the book, he says, you know, Dan didn't think that he would be the best person to write this book. So he got me to write this book. And it's his ideas, but you know, I'm packaging it up in the way I think would be best, you know, told, and the stories that would be best told. And
Yeah.
so he even got someone else to write his book, and it's done so well. So
Uh,
he lives what he breathes. He lives
yeah,
what he
no
preaches,
kidding.
man.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, 10x is season 2x.
No, I like that. I like that.
What's
All
your
right.
number two?
My number two is I give myself the space to forgive myself for bad mistakes. And so I'm usually pretty hard on myself. I feel like, I internalize failure, so-called failure quite a bit. But this year I've started to realize there's no such thing as failure. There's only lessons. And the whole point of each lesson is to not do it again. And instead of considering mistakes as failures, I realized that I've learned a good lesson. So let me give you an example. So I I live in Alberta, and parts of Alberta are doing really well, and some aren't. So I live in a part that has been through its valleys and peaks and ups and downs. And so my whole life I was told, Nekky, you have to own real estate, you have to rent, you have to, build a portfolio. So that's what I did when I first graduated. I was, everything in the economy was going well. I bought some rental condos, start to build up this portfolio, knowing that I don't know anything about that. And then the economy crashed, and that was in 2015, and it is now almost 2024, and it has never recovered. And so instead of, when I hear my friends in Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, like, 3 to 5xing their real estate investments, I've actually lost, and I continue to lose money every month. And I consider myself the biggest failure. And and I let it destroy my mentality. And I'm very embarrassed to even talk about it. But if I don't talk about it, I'm not helping people around me. I want people to learn from my mistakes, or the timing of my decisions, and knowing that I didn't physically cause this mistake. It's a reality of market and timing. It hurts me because I feel like, I could have done something better with it. I'm embarrassed about it, but like, I can't control the market. It sucks. But I've given myself the ability to like forgive myself for making the bad mistake and not letting it overtake my mentality of wanting to grow other areas of my life. And I think for years I let it hinder me and my thoughts too much. So in 2023, and I'm still working on it, I've forgiven myself for some mistakes I've made.
How do you like tactically see yourself doing that? Like, how do you see yourself forgiving yourself?
I think just telling myself, and it's just like, you know what, you didn't create this mistake. Um, you've learned from it, and we're all gonna make errors out there, and you can't look to the person to the right of you to see how well they've done, and then focus only on your mistakes and focus only on your errors, because you can't control all those things. And just not letting myself feel stupid is been huge for me, because I did feel stupid for a very long time, like very long time, to the point where I'd come home and I couldn't even think about anything else, because I felt like, I was such an idiot, and like, I'm not good at this, or I'm not good at business. And then you look at other like people out there that have done really well, and I'm like, man, your circumstance of timing, you did nothing different than I did. You just did it in a different market. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
timing and location, um, hurt me a lot. And I feel like I took that personally, like in my own mindset. And in 2023, I forgave myself and was able to lift that burden off my shoulders.
And
Yeah.
man, you did like the best with the information you had. It's not
Oh,
like
totally.
you were being like a bit offside by buying, like turning your practice into like Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you had the benefit of hindsight and you still made that mistake again.
Yeah.
So I think that deserves some credit too, because
Totally.
you were trying to set yourself up for success. It's not like you did it with bad intentions.
My lawyer, my lawyer's one of my buddies, and he's got a couple years on me. And I remember talking to him about it. And every year I go talk to him, like, when you sign your professional corp letter, I always go into his office and do it just so I can talk to him. And I told him, I'm like, dude, I feel like a failure this year. And he's the one that actually like put this thought in my head. And he's just like, you know, what you did was you took this on the chin, and that's fine. Okay. And you took it on a chin earlier in your career, because had you won that early in your career and had you made, this huge success, you would have invested a ton of money in something that would have lost so big, you would have jeopardized your whole career. He's like, think of it as the best learning lesson you've ever had. And in the grand scheme of things, it does not hurt you at all. It doesn't hurt you at all. But had you made that mistake 15 years from now, when you actually could like you actually had wealth, then you would have really kicked yourself. So consider it a good learning lesson early on in your career and take it as a win. And I was like, hell yeah, dude. That's a good way of looking at it. And when people, take advantage of you in life, you have to say, you know what, you help that person get to where they are. Take it as a win and move on, because you can't, if you keep on dwelling on the negative side of things, you'll never grow as a person. And this year I felt like I really grew in that aspect. Is you have to turn losses into wins in order to grow.
It's tuition, man. It's tuition.
It's tuition. Yeah, I'll take
Pay
it,
it
man.
early.
Yeah,
It's like
I
you look
did.
at
I
it in
paid
the
it
grand
early, man.
scheme of things. It's
Yeah,
not yeah, dental school's expensive. It's 50K, but in the grand scheme of things, is it 50K now, which is a certain percentage of your worth, or is it 500K down the road?
yeah,
And same goes for you. It's
yeah,
yeah, we all make mistakes though. Like I think you're really good about actually talking about your mistakes. Like if
yeah.
anyone
People are too
who's
scared to
listening,
talk about them, man.
well, yeah, if anyone's ever been to your talks, it's like 80% of it is just like, here's how I screwed up. Don't screw up, right?
Yeah,
Because that's what you need. You don't want someone just like showing a highlight reel, being like, look at what I did. I honestly don't even know what to use an example, but it's like I pulled a wisdom tooth out with a set of cotton pliers. I don't
yeah,
know, but it's like you want someone actually being like authentic and honest, and like you said, you can't learn from someone who doesn't share their mistakes or isn't open about their mistakes. So good
yeah.
on you, man.
Thanks, man. What's your number
Good
three?
on you. Number three. Okay, this one's a little bit. Have you read Outliers? I feel like all of them
Oh
are
yeah,
based on books.
yeah,
You've read Outliers, right?
yeah,
It's like the 10,000 hour rule.
yeah.
I screwed up the interpretation of that because this is a common theme. I have my own interpretations of what you know people say and what people do, but they're not always the right one. I missed out a one key word in the 10,000 hour rule,
Oh, can I
which
guess what it
is
is? Can I guess?
yes, yeah,
Intentional.
yes, yes. Oh my God. Yes,
Because I
intentional
thought the exact
practice.
same thing, man. 10,000 hours is different than 10,000 intentional hours.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you do it, okay, in the dental realm, right? We get a lot of intentional practice, right? But once you graduated, if you're doing an MOD and you're doing an MOD 50,000 times, you're not getting any better
No,
because it's not intentional practice. Like, sure,
that's
you
right.
might know how to, you know, cut teeth that look a little different, or you could feel better, whatever it may be. There are those nuances that you will learn, but 10,000 hours of deliberate practice are totally different. And if one thing I've learned from this podcast by talking to, so many people with you, and just hearing, people's stories, especially in the business realm, is if you are not putting in intentional practice into the things that you want to see results in, you will not get them.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop.
Yep.
You cannot fall, you know, and land in a goal. You might get a little lucky, and that might happen, but it's like I see dentists all the time, and it happens over and over again. I remember Dr. Chuna came on, right? Endodontist. And he's
Yeah.
like finding, MB2 in like 45 seconds. And then we started talking about like, business and like practice admin and those sorts of things. And he's just like, yeah, like I'm just not good at it. And I think on the podcast, I was like, well, were you good at root canals before even got into dental school? It's like, no, you have to practice. These skills are not unattainable. You're not born an endodontist. You're not born a dentist. You're not born a business owner. You become one. And without that intentional practice, taking time out of your day every Sunday, reading, learning, watching YouTube videos, talking to people, actually doing these intentional things, it's not just going to come from experience. At least I don't believe so. And I've seen the best outcomes of the people that actually put in that time and attention to put in processes or put processes in place. In the dental realm, I think it's pretty common. People do CE, but there's not much CE in other realms, and even outside of your professional life, your personal life. You're not going to be a better partner, a better friend just by being there. It's like, hey, man, I showed up. Like, isn't that enough? It's like, no, you have to put in intentional effort. Like,
Yeah.
ask how they're doing, call them, text them, like, hey, I know you were like going through this one thing. Do you want to talk about it? Like, that's how you do it, not just showing up to a party and, talking.
It's that's so true. And I heard of outliers, I guess when I was still in no, I was in university. And no, maybe I was in high school. Anyways, I thought it would make me a better basketball player to just shoot all day, every day. And it really doesn't. Like the whole 10,000 hour thing. And that's when in my head I was like, oh, it's intentional hours. Like having having a coach with you the whole time is much different than you just going to the gym.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And so I 100% hear you, man. It's not 10,000 hours just doing something. It's 10,000 deliberate intentional hours, reading, mentoring, all that type of stuff. I hear you, man. That's a
And
really good
it's
one.
funny. You said like how you found the book. I was told this book. I was told to read this book when I was absolutely bombing an interview for a job. And the person goes, you should read this book. Just like ends the interview there. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should read this book. Like, what is this person talking about? That's how I found out about the book. Just absolutely getting demolished in this interview, not knowing anything. They're just like, just let's end this here, but read this book, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Oh man.
Yeah.
I
What's yours?
guess we're,
Number
we're on
three.
number four.
Number number
Oh,
four.
oh no, number
Three.
three, number three. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one is for work, for as a dentist, to stop internalizing people's neglect. And so I would take at work, I would take, a failure, like say an implant failure or, a non-healing patient infection, whatever. I would take it personally. Like, what did I do wrong? And instead of turning the table around and saying, this patient may not have taken care of their teeth for the last 65 years and now decides, well, they want to, but it doesn't mean that it's the best environment for it. Do you know what I mean? Or someone has a crazy hard bite, or they grind their teeth all day, and you do a restoration and it fails. Well, like, I know that's not neglect, but like you can't personally take that respond like as your own fault, because like, God made a tooth that couldn't even work there, and how are you expected to put something into that situation and make it work? um and we're not, like, at the end of the day, we can't we can't embody the the patient situation. All we can do is the best that we can, and we can't internalize, the either the health of the patient or the patient situation. All we can do is what we can do for that situation, and we can't let that be tied to our self-worth as a dentist.
So true, man. You've talked about that before too, right?
Yeah.
Like it's tough to just accept because you do your best.
Yeah,
Like you're doing your part.
we all do our best, and um I think it really hit home for me when I had this one patient. No matter how much I want to say her name, I won't,
Mhm.
because no one would care. But anyways, it really beat me up, really, really beat me up mentally. Like, took sleep away from me because I was trying to do her a favor. And like, I don't do a ton of fillings now. I take out a lot of teeth. Did a filling. She kept on getting food caught between there because the tooth was drifting, and all of a sudden it's my fault. You know what I mean? It's like every time I eat a steak, I think of you and how much I hate you. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I had to dismiss her from the practice because I was like, you know what, I'm not the dentist for you. Um, I can't be responsible for your situation. You know what I mean? And the fact that you tell me you hate me, like, it just makes me feel like shit as a dentist. And I don't need those people in my life because I'm always trying to do my best, and I can't embody your clinical situation and tie that to who I am, or the person I'm trying to be. And it's there's no room for that in my life.
But how do you create that space considering the person you are? And I mean this honestly because like when my mom had like an issue with her wisdom teeth, like I didn't text it to anyone besides you because I know you care the most out of, you know, the people I know, right? It's
Oh,
like
thanks,
I know
man.
Necky's gonna give this his like care and attention, and that's just the way I know who you are. So you're very caring, but then how do you create that distance? Because it's hard to do
Yeah,
both.
I know. And this is the year that I was like I just, that situation this year, it was like the final straw for me. It was like, I try to help people through a lot of their stuff and give it my best, but at the end of the day, um if you're not willing to work with me, I can't have you working against me. That means I'm like, you have no trust in me, so maybe you should see someone that maybe you trust more. And so I don't know. I feel like if you don't understand that I'm willing to give it my all, and I am giving it my all, and I'm willing to work with you to find what a clinical scenario that will work, instead of like, blaming me, like it's your mouth, man. You know what I mean? Like, calling me at
Mhm.
9:30 on a Friday night to tell me you have space between your teeth, like that just shows like, come on, man. Like, I can't do that. And I didn't become a dentist for that. And there has to be boundaries, and there has to be, um, you know, uh, there has to be some level of respect for you as a professional, and wanting to do what's best for your patients. But at the end of the day, you have to value yourself too. And so I can internalize people's problems as much as, maybe I used to.
So is it being about being clear which patient falls within which bucket? Like this is the patient that is going to be the one that I personally care about and like have that, or is it just have a blanket rule?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I try to treat everyone the same, and be there for everyone, but I can't be there for everyone. Like, and I can't tie. I think the lesson is I can't tie my self-worth to clinical scenarios I can't control.
Totally.
Yeah,
You do your best, and but that's so tough when you like
I
you
know,
feel
right?
like you care for someone, right?
Yeah,
It's like your family.
yeah.
Um,
You,
but
you you can't do everything though, man. You can't do everything.
yeah, there's a word for that. What is it? Clinical dissonance? Clinical distance? Is it dissonance or distance? It's like you have
I
to. I
guess it
never
makes
understood that
sense.
concept before
Yeah,
going into dentistry because I'm like I want to treat everyone like their family, right? It's like this is like my mom I'm treating her.
yeah.
And then you kind of go for reasons like you mentioned, or for reasons like, man, I don't want to work with my mom because I'm so scared of hurting her, right? Or it's like I don't want to touch any of my family because it's just I don't want anything to go wrong. So I become like, I question myself, and I'm not as confident as I normally would be because then
Ah,
every single scenario is going through my head. So it's a tough thing, especially when you're dealing with humans and you you have you have a position of power over them, right? It's you can do harm. You can things can go
yeah,
wrong. But yeah, that's a really good point, man.
yeah,
Finding that distance for
yeah.
certain people.
For certain people.
Certain people.
There's always
Yeah.
people you'll bend over backwards for, but
I'm not gonna call
can't live
Nike
your
at
life
9
that way.
p.m. on
Man, you're always
on a
welcome. You
Friday
know that.
night
You're always
when
welcome
steak gets stuck in between my teeth.
to. All right, what's your number
Sweet.
four?
Number four is taking a genuine look at my addictions. And I don't mean that
Oh, nice.
in like I don't have any drug addictions.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll make that clear. It's not addictions in that way. It's making it very clear what the things in my life I'm doing are for the purposes of like relief or coping or in whatever small way.
yeah.
I'm not a gamer,
Yeah,
but one thing I definitely relied upon as a crutch is food,
yeah,
right? And being very clear with, hey, I'm using this not because I'm hungry, but because it flips something on in my brain that helps me detach and distract. And in that way, it's similar to a drug, right? It helps me dissociate from my reality.
yeah,
Another thing can be work at times, right? It's, things are going really poorly in my personal life. Hey,
yeah.
I'm
You
going to put
work.
that all aside. Let me work.
Yep.
Let me like distract myself doing this. There's these addictions and being very clear about what those addictions are. Like you said, the phone, social media. Are you kidding me? When I feel like the world's after me and I feel really shitty about myself, hell yeah, I'm doom scrolling on TikTok for days, right? It
Yeah,
just feels so good. Like there is that chemical link between the things you do, whether physical or psychological, that lead to some sort of relief.
yep,
And in my opinion, that's an addiction. So getting really clear about what those addictions are, and when I'm in those moments, pulling out that list and saying, hey, which one of these am I using to cope? Because imagine the person you would be without your addictions or without the things you rely on as a crutch.
yeah.
And certain things are healthier than others, but imagine the person you would be just to be able to take things, as they are. And again, if there's something that is really bothering me at work and I choose to eat or go on social media or do whatever, I'm not addressing the problem. I'm just kicking it further down the road.
I
And
think you bring up
eventually
a good
you're
point
gonna
though.
have
Is
to.
the first thing you do to it though is you label it,
Yeah.
and I like that. I like that. Is understanding the meaning of behind what you're doing. I've never done that before, nor have I thought of doing that. But you're right. Like I think we both use work as a way of escaping personal life. And we both are addicted to our phones, and we both are, we are addicted to food at certain times, and you're totally right. But understanding the meaning behind the action, I think, is the key point right there. Hey.
Yeah. Just and actually sitting down. I'm not saying a lot of these things need to back to the, intentional time, right?
Yeah.
You need to set time aside. I keep saying you, I mean me, right?
I
Like
feel like you're
I
talking
need
right
to
to me,
set
man.
time. I need to set time aside to just sit down and write it on a piece of paper
I like that. That
and
comes
say,
back to your
Akil,
number
these
one.
are,
That's focus,
yeah,
right? Yeah. I like that.
focused. It's not like this is not like a passive thought because yeah, sure. I think about it when I'm doing the dishes and I'm like, hey, I should probably not do this as much because,
Mhm.
I'm not addressing this or I'm not doing that. But actually having it on a piece of paper, like writing is a very powerful thing, very powerful because it lets you see in like it's one of the very few things, and there's a lot of other creative, outlets you can use or, channels you can use, but to see visually what your mind is thinking is a really powerful thing. Like to actually see it. Because like there's not many things that can do that for you emotionally, right? You can go to therapy, you could talk about it, but then again, you're not seeing it. Maybe your therapist will like recite it back to you and say, "Is this what you're saying?" And then, might land differently, but being able to see it and just look at it and assess it objectively. It brings it from like a very loose, intangible state to something you can actually do something with.
I've always respected that about you. You've always been you've always been open with sharing your ability, like you're basically sharing your emotions, but I think it's always gone back to you writing it out. And I think you shared that with me once as well. It's like, whenever you're having a tough time or whenever you're trying to understand something, you write it out. And I think you just nailed it right there is you write it's a visual representation of what's going on in your mind. And that is super powerful, man. I like
Yeah.
that.
And being able
I
to
like
freeze it in that point in time. It's like you're
yeah.
freezing what's in your mind and it's there and you can come back to it. I wish like something I wish I was more consistent with is just journaling consistently. Because like we talk about at the very beginning, hey, every year it feels like we're in the same spot.
Yeah.
But if you have like a blueprint of your mind back then, and you can go back and look to it and say, wow, this is how I thought, or this is what I was dealing with, or this was the thing that was occupying my, awareness the most at that given time. That's really powerful. You'll see the change. It's tangible. It's
Yeah.
right
No
there.
kidding.
But
Huh.
you have to do it for a long enough period where it's not it's not just when things are bad, right? It's also when things are good because it's like going to therapy when only things are bad. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you'll get out of that state temporarily, but you need that consistency.
Do you find when your mind is racing or like you're having a rough go at things, like that's when you start writing the most?
That's
Just
where I want to start writing the most. Yeah. That's where I
yeah.
feel the need to.
Hmm.
But I wish I could write because just as much as I want to write when things are not going well,
Yeah.
when things are going really well, I almost need that more because when things aren't going well, I could just flip back and say, what was I doing back then?
Hmm.
What was the way like what were like the neurons that were firing back then and why did that make me happy?
Yeah. And what was going on there? I like
Because
that.
that's almost more important, right? Like how do you get yourself out of it?
Yeah.
Like some days you come home and you're like the whole day was just blew up. Like,
Yeah.
it's sometimes that happens for weeks where you're just like, when is this storm cloud gonna like move? But, you know, having some sort of like tangible evidence that goes back, because our memories are really poor, right?
Totally.
Having
You
some,
only remember the negatives, man. You never remember the
yeah,
positives. Yeah.
having some evidence and going back and saying, oh, wow, like, I spent more time with, my friends back here. And that's what made me really happy. Or, you know, there's so many things, right? Your mind plays tricks on you.
Yeah.
Your mind it does not want to see you do well a lot of the time.
I hear that. I hear that. My number four is very similar. It's the only well, not the only way to keep my head out of the gutter, meaning like, not dwelling on the negatives is to get dopamine hits the only way I know how, and that's to run. I can't. I need to always keep my body moving to keep my mind fresh. And the only times I feel like the worst person or the worst version of me is when I don't exercise. And I never used to understand that. And this year, I don't know why. It was like when I was exercising or whenever I was running, it's like I'm the best version of me. And when I feel like I'm too busy to, turn my mind off and go for a run, that's when I really start spiraling and I feel like I don't have enough time, or I feel like how am I supposed to do all these things today because I don't even have time to sleep, and patients are calling me and I got a podcast to do or got these emails to write. I got to go visit someone, and then like it just spirals and all I need to do is run. And when I can run, I can put things in perspective. And so my number four, kind of similar to you, is I need to keep moving, man. I don't know. Do you feel that?
Oh, 100%, man.
Yeah.
Both came from the same sort of like stagnant chubby kid era, right? So
Yeah.
it's it's something special about doing something with your body and just the sense of accomplishment you get when you when you do something like that. Even just
Yeah.
being able to check that off. You run pretty much every day, don't you?
You know, I used to run every day, and then during the fall, I felt like I don't know why. Like, you know how you go through ebbs and flows, and then the fall I stopped, and then I started and stopped. And then this last week, you know, especially with being off for a week, I've been running like, you know, 10K plus a day, and I feel so freaking good. And I don't know why I don't let that, you know, continue on, and I use work or lectures or traveling as an excuse not to keep moving. And that's when I feel the worst about myself. Like, and it's not like a body image thing. I don't care necessarily what I look like. It's a mind thing. Like, it's like I'm the freshest version of me when I'm exercising, and I need to be cognizant of that, because when I have a shitty day at work, I'm starting to understand, well, when was the last time you ran? Or when was the last time you worked out? And it's been, you know, a week, and you're like, well, no shit, you feel like crap. You don't need to, you don't need to call your counselor or your therapist. You need to get on your treadmill, and it works every time. And it just gives you a new perspective. And yeah, so for me, I know I'm starting to, you know, understand my body more and more.
That's
Gotta
awesome.
run, gotta get my dopamine hits. Yeah.
What are you
What,
thinking about when you run?
um, I'm honestly, I'm trying to dissect the situation that made me upset. And so I still remember, I'll share the story. I was, I was checking Instagram one day, and someone left me a message, and it was in like like they're not my friend, they're a request. And it was like a one word swear word directed at me. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? And then I go and I'm like, is this person a patient? And I go check their chart, and it's the same person last year I refused to pull their wisdom teeth because I just got a bad vibe. Like, I don't say yes to every case. If I don't feel like, you know, I'm the right dentist for you, I'm just gonna say, you know what, I'm not your dentist, go see someone else. And the next day, after getting this message, I was like, man, that's weird. Why would, like, that's stupid. You know what I mean? The next day his mom called me and was like, hey, my son's in so much pain, you wouldn't pull his teeth last year. He went to another dentist, they wouldn't pull his teeth either. And he wanted to apologize to you. And so the mom was making this kid apologize to me, and he was mad that he had to apologize to me, so he called me a swear word. And I just thought the situation was funny, but it made me angry at the time. And I was like, I need to go home and run, because it was like, why would someone reach out to only swear at me? And I don't know why that just like angered me or pissed me off. And I still think about that, and I'm like, those are the situations where I can't control, or don't understand why, or someone pissed me off, or whatever. That's when I get on the treadmill and I run, and I just feel better. If
There
that even
you
makes any sense at all. That was the dumbest story in the world. Sorry for even sharing it, but
go.
um, I don't know, man. Can we delete
So,
that?
I thought it was a good story.
Yeah,
I liked it. The petty kid, just
the petty,
Nekky,
petty.
you're a
But that's what it is, though. Like, all the shit that pisses us off, 99% of it's petty and in the moment.
totally.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyways, what's your number
I
five,
like
man?
that one. Number five. Ooh, this one I think is y- some might say it's obvious. And I know it's true, but I always have to remind myself of this, and that is personal relationships are the single most important thing in my life. And just remembering that is like we know it's true. We know it's objectively true. Like, wouldn't you agree? Like,
Absolutely.
who's
It,
gonna
it
deny
is.
that?
No, it's you're totally right, but it's often the relationship that we neglect the most.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's and trying to figure out why. And they're messy. They're not in our control. They require a ton of time for almost no tangible output, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're not going to see your like there's no like slider bar that's going up and up and up and up and up. But I've been thinking a lot about happiness and a lot about like, what's the point of all this? Like, why are we working so hard? Why do we do this podcast? Why do I go to school? And it's to be happy, right? Like it's that's what it comes down to. And we know that from science, this is not just me saying it, this is not just anecdote. From science, we know the single most important thing that leads to people's happiness are their interpersonal relationships.
Hmm.
Yet other things get prioritized constantly over this. And friends tell me this. They're like, Akil, man, like you go in these periods of you're just like working all the time, and it's so hard to get a hold of you, and you don't want to come out. And then I get mad when it's like, hey, like you guys don't reach out. It's like, yeah, we have been reaching out for 6 months. Like, but you're in this state of just always wanting to hustle, always wanting to grind, always wanting to do this. And it's it's not because I know what the end of that road looks like. We all know what the end of that road looks like with, not having anyone to share anything with, right? And money won't do it for you. Applause won't do it for you. Man, like I used to get so excited when someone I didn't really know would tell me something I liked. Like, man, great podcast. Now it's like I realize that doesn't do it for me. Right? It's like, oh, Sage is going spot. Like, man, you don't even know what it's like to run a business. Like you don't see the like sleepless nights or the times we have to miss people's birthdays or like having that just and again, it's not interpersonal relationships, just anybody. It's like the select few people you care about and like prioritizing those. And that's, I think, something that I really want to work on in 2023 because it's so easy just to get because at the end of the day, there's no direct instant, just like there's no direct benefit from prioritizing that, right? Like, sure, you might feel good after a conversation. Like, I love doing these podcasts. Like, I feel
Hmm.
super great. If we neglect it or if we don't do it, there's no direct, like, you don't see the direct result, in the other direction. You don't see, it doesn't like, I don't get like a punch in the gut, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's my last one is just really prioritizing those personal relationships. And I think, it's not to say that the two can't exist. Like for example, we're doing this podcast. Some could call this work or a job. You're a friend.
Yeah.
It's not us trying to sell people on something. We're not pushing anything. Like this is an interpersonal relate. This is like friendship, right?
Yep.
Like you are my
Totally.
friend. Just so everybody's clear. Like that's the stuff I want to prioritize. And the other stuff, like it's important, but it'll come. It'll come with time. Everything will come, but if you start neglecting this stuff, it's way harder to build that up. It takes way more time than, working more or doing, another assignment or, landing another client. That stuff will come with time, but what really will make me happy is not that. It's the personal relationships.
I hear you, man. But it's also exactly what we were saying before. Like it's hard when you're in the moment with hustle culture on your phone, feeding you videos nonstop, saying how much you need to work and how this is the most important time in your life and you need to do this now. It's hard to put that aside and be intentional about your personal relationships. It's a difficult balancing act. And I think anyone who owns a business or an entrepreneur understands that. And it's the true gift of being able to create time for those personal relationships. And do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
totally.
that. Yeah, I think that's tough, man. But I like that. Create time for personal relationships. I
And
think,
also
yeah,
you could argue that if again, this is Dan Sullivan, he has like these like five freedoms, like freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of purpose, freedom of relationships, and freedom of something else. I don't remember the last one. But if your engine, say it's your practice, is not giving you the freedom of time and freedom of relationships to do what you want with your time and spend it with the people you want to spend it with, yeah, put some attention to your business so that you could get it to a point where you get those freedoms. I'm not saying neglect those things.
Of
You
course.
need those things. We all need money. We all need purpose. We all need, you know, things to do with our day. Understood. But like be very clear with what that finish line looks like and what good enough looks like. And once it's good enough, I need to not get greedy and say, no, I'm going to push it further and further and further. Say, no, I can take it back. I can take weekends
No,
off.
I
And
think that's impossible, man. No, I
how?
don't buy that, dude. I don't buy that at all, because that's why we have goals. No one has ever made a goal to be stagnant, and then no one has ever made a goal that says, in 2025, if I have $10 million in sales, whatever business you're running, you can't tell me in 2025 you're going to say, I'm happy with this. I want to continue with $10 million in sales in 2026. I hope I don't get an extra 10 grand in sales. Like that'll never happen. How do you work around that?
And okay, I getting from 0 to 10 million was probably extremely difficult. That's you not sleeping. That's you, going from I'm starting at 0 and I want to get to 10 million in 2 years.
Right.
That's like a sickness level of work. I'm saying, yeah, when you're at 10 million, don't say, okay, I'm good. Nobody talk to me anymore. It's like, okay, no, our goal now is more realistic. It's let's get to 10.1, 10.3, 10.5. It's like you can make these incremental changes, but you don't need to do this like whole I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm not talking to
Mm.
anyone, I'm not doing anything else that makes me happy because is it really going to make a difference to your life and your sense of self once you get from 10 million to 20 million or 20 to 50 or 50 to 100?
What all I'm saying is I think we're neglecting the one by saying that you're neglecting the part that got you to 10 million though. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't lose the drive. And I have a hard time with this too. Like I understand exactly what you're saying, but I have a hard time saying, okay, I'm good with where we're at. Let's just go for incremental. Like my mind doesn't work that way. And I know yours doesn't either. You have to be able to be like, okay, how do we turn 10 to 20? How do we turn 20 to 40? I wish I do. That's how I am. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I have to be able to grow something. And I feel like that's where the fun is okay, I was able to get from 0 to 1. Okay, now how do I get to 4? How do I get to 8? How do I get to 12? And I think that's the part that we both wish we were better at being able to say, okay, I'm there. Now let's enjoy where we are, but it's hard. And I think it's really hard because you have that mindset of always like, okay, but how do I grow this? How do I grow this? How do I get bigger? Right? How do you go from 2x to 10x?
I agree. I think I would 100% struggle with that too. But when I get to 10, I hope that it's going to be I could still have that intensity. Like I was just talking to someone yesterday and like we both know her. And I was like, to be honest, like dentistry, I love it. I truly, which I mean, comes as a surprise to a lot of people. Like I love dentistry, but the intensity in my life, like that, me running at all cylinders comes truly from Sage, from my work. And
Yeah,
that's where and I said,
fair
when
enough.
I practice in a couple of months, my dentistry intensity or like my dentistry life is not going to be that insane intensity. That's going to be, I love talking to patients. I love, like asking how they're doing. Like any appointment I have right now, the first like half an hour to 40 minutes, just me talking to them. Right. I love that just gentleness to the profession. And that's the way I want to practice.
Mm,
Could not gonna be for everyone. Some people like the intensity part, but in the same way, when I'm at 10 million, I'm still going to be, I think I can be so intense when I'm at work, but just like the juggling, when that ball leaves my
I hear what you're
hand
saying. I hear what
and
you're
I
saying.
want to like leave, I
Yeah.
want to be like, you know what? I want to fly out and go see Nekky this weekend and just be like, I'm not bringing my laptop. I'm not going to check email the whole time. It's like I could still have that intensity, but it doesn't need to be like 24/7.
Mm.
But I see your point. It's it's tough to turn it off for people that want to do things like that.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think finding the balance is the true secret there. I haven't found the balance yet. I I still always prioritize work ahead of my personal relationships at a detriment, and I'll be the first to say that. I it's hard, man, and you're totally right. It's trying to find that balance right off the bat, right? Yeah,
Integration, not balance.
integration,
Integration.
intentional integration. I like it.
Intentional integration. Work it in. Guy Meany told me that actually. He
He
was
said what?
like, he goes, I don't believe in work-life balance because balance assumes that, you know, it's like predetermined, it's fixed. It's like a recipe, 2 parts of this, 5 parts of that. Integration is, sometimes I'm going to have to miss the birthday to go to work. But then other times I'm going to have to miss work to go to the birthday. And
Hmm.
both are going to have to be understanding of that. And
Ah,
I
I
think
like that.
that's what I really like is not so much the rigid 5 o'clock, don't bother me. I don't believe in that. It's at 5 o'clock. You know what? Sometimes I have my own personal life and nobody at work bother me because this is my time. But then other times after five, hey, like family, friends, girlfriend, like I'm not coming home until 10 p.m. tonight.
Yeah,
And they understand that. So I like the integration idea. The balance is a bit too rigid for me.
I like that. I like that. I like the
Yeah.
integration too. Dude, that was a good one. I like it.
What's your five?
Um,
Finale.
number five is in December, I felt like I didn't have clarity. And I felt maybe because I wasn't running, I don't know. I didn't have clarity. I felt a lack of direction. I felt like my head was, going in 10 different directions. And my buddy Mikey sat me down December 21st. And I was telling him, he's like, man, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, man, I can't find clarity. I just need to find a clear path to the next step of whatever I want to do. Like I'm just finding like I'm being torn in 10 different directions and I just feel this like haze in my head. And he told me something that just makes the most sense. It's just like, man, do what makes you happy and what makes you fulfilled. And just hearing that almost gave me the permission to be like, I don't want to do that shit. I just want to do this one thing that makes me happy. So why am I doing that other shit? Do what makes you happy and what makes you fulfilled and go in that direction. And just having the permission. It's like when someone just tells you that you want it just it's so clear and of course it makes sense, but it just gave me permission to be like, you know what, maybe I need to chase what keeps me happy and what keeps me entertained and go down a different venture or go down a different path. um Someone else, me, I do my third molar mentorships, and one of my students, he's a dentist and he's this wicked dentist in Ontario, and he told me something great as well. And I was telling him, I was like, man, I have this haze in my head. And he's just like, Nekky, if you're on a train, you're able to get off at any stop. You don't have to continue on that train. You're able to punch your ticket and get off the train. And that's just your destination, man. You don't have to stay on that train for the rest of your life. And I was like, man, it's just about the people around me giving me permission to feel how I want to feel and do what makes me feel happy. I think that was awesome. So my number 5 lesson is so simple, man. Do what makes you feel happy. Don't do shit that doesn't make you feel happy, within reason, of course. And you'll feel a lot more fulfilled in life. And I'm really happy I have these people in my life that allow myself to give me permission to be like, you know what, Nekky, I want, like, you have to be happy. And now you have the permission to be happy and do what you want. So
I love
chase
it.
that shit, man.
Is that mostly in personal or professional?
Professional. Yeah. I personal life, I'm really lucky. I have great friends. I don't keep a lot of friends around me. My inner circle is my only friends, and I want to say there's like, you're one of them, buddy. But I have like 4 or 5 close friends. I don't really like go out on weekends or go for dinner with different friends. Like that's just not my life. And I like that. Like I like just having 4 or 5 close friends that I can talk to, and that's it. So
It's
Yeah,
true.
just have just everyone, if whoever's listening, like you have permission to be happy, and you can punch your ticket at any stop and get off the train. I love that. Like that just like it, I don't know why, but it just rang true in my head, and it was like, okay, cool. Now what's the next venture? And so I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that.
I was listening to this podcast, My First Million, and it's about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And it's easy to think of your life as, when I think of a train, I think of like, it's like one kind of set of rails that goes like, if you think of it like across Canada, it's like you can get off in Ontario and then you can get off in Alberta and then you can get to like mentally picture the map in
Yeah.
my head. Then you have to get off in Vancouver, right? Or like wherever. But like I really liked this way that one of the podcast hosts talked about careers, and he said careers are like seasons. Like you don't necessarily have like winter is completely different than summer, and we're okay with it. We don't like get all up in arms about, oh my God, like, I wasn't done summer and I want more something. Like, sure you do, but it's inevitable. It's a new season. It's a new part of your career. It's a new part of your life. And in this season of your life, you might be more of this. And the next season, you might change it up and you might want to do something else. And in autumn, you might want to do a third thing. So I like the whole idea of seasons because it makes it seem like they're so vastly different. And it's sort of like you're not stuck on like with the train. I, I don't mean to like I don't mean to dismiss the train analogy, but it's like I would have to get back on. And unless you took a completely different rail that went like north,
Yeah.
it'd be hard to completely change directions.
I
It's like
hear
I
you.
kind of have to get back on this like one way thing. It's like, all right, I'm off. Now I'm back on. But with the seasons, I like how I can go from being a professional juggler to being a dentist to being a ventriloquist. I could do whatever I want because they're
Yeah.
all different seasons, right? And you're not defined by just one particular thing.
No, I like that, dude. Like careers
Seasons.
are about seasons, man. Man, that was good 5 lessons. I hope I hope we continue to build on these. It'd be fun to do this every year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reset. It'd be cool to like check in and see how we're actually
Oh.
doing with these things.
We'll
Like
be like,
we
no,
should have like
number
a check-in.
number 5 was crap. I just want to hustle all the time, and I'm
Yeah,
not going
exactly.
to listen to any of that shit. No,
It's
man,
like it's like
I hear
writing.
you. Yeah.
Like we gotta keep like a time-stamped version of ourself
Yeah. No.
and continuously see how that
Yeah.
how that tracks. But yeah, those are really good five. I
Uh,
like your five.
Oh man, I like your 5 too. You know, I really I think you're right. I like your number 1, the focus. And I think I need to get rid of the some of the distractions in my life, and label the distractions too. I like that. Yeah.
Or even keep them in, but just in doses. Like that's when you're holding that ball.
Yeah.
And as long as it serves a purpose, as long as it's not like a destructive distraction,
Totally.
it
Yeah.
could stay in, but just intentionally. So you can't have it all,
Mm. No, I
but
hear
just
that.
not at the same time.
Dude, can I leave everyone with a parting message?
Sure.
I've thought about this one. And I know you, I know this is a problem for you, and I know it's a problem for me. And I feel like as I get older, it's less and less of a problem. But when I was younger, it was a bigger problem. But, we've all heard this before. Stop caring what other people think, because no one gives a shit about you. They're so wrapped up in their own selves. And if you, if someone wouldn't speak at your funeral, why do you care about their opinion when you're alive?
True. It's
Right?
true. The
Be the
eulogy.
guy that dances at a wedding. No one gives a shit. I was so scared. I was so scared to even go swimming and take my shirt off. Like, no one gives a shit, man. No one cares. If they care more about you than they do about themselves, they got their own issues, man. No one gives a shit. Post that post on
Yeah.
social media. Be the guy that puts their hand up for dance lessons. I don't care. Just do shit, and no one gives a crap, man. Only care about
So
yourself.
true.
Yeah, man.
Avi Patel, who we just had on the podcast, had a really great story on Instagram, and he just like, I responded to it and I said, man, honestly, I'm not enough of a dentist yet to like know the context of this or really speak to like the other side of it. But I really appreciate that you have an opinion and you have a point of view and you stick to it and you share it, because so many people are so wrapped up in just fitting in and doing what is expected of them. Very few people will actually take that control of their life and take control of, you know, their actions and do it the way they want to do it.
Mhm.
Everyone is just so wrapped up in what's expected of me. What am I supposed to be? What is the ideal dentist supposed to do? But few
Yeah.
people kind of try to carve that path out. And I think Abhi Patel, he does that quite a bit. Like he has these bold statements, and it's no one's always right, but as long as you're living true to your own values, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. That's sweet,
I
man.
love it.
I love it.
2023 wrapped up.
2023 wrapped up, man. Yeah, 2024 is going to be wicked. We're going to have some awesome people on the pod. Stay tuned. And that's it, man. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year to you too, and to the listeners. Alrighty, take care.
See ya.